Hey there, Scribe, and welcome back to the Right Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Williams, and I'm so excited to share today's episode with you because I had the absolute pleasure of sitting down with the fabulous Fiona Tarr. Fiona is a crime fiction author with a fascinating background. She's an Aussie like me, and we actually met at a writing event a few months ago. She's not only a talented storyteller, but she's also incredibly generous with her insights. And in this episode, she opens up about so many things that I know will resonate with you. We chat about how important it is to understand what the market wants without compromising your creative voice, and how that awareness helped Fiona shape her brand and boost her book sales. We also dive into her experiences speaking at libraries, which is such a brilliant way to connect with readers and get your name out there, especially if you're writing genre fiction. One of my favourite parts of our chat was when Fiona talked about the power of having a writing community. If you've ever felt like you're doing this writing thing all alone, you'll really appreciate her thoughts on finding your tribe, those writer friends who lift you up, cheer you on, and totally understand the roller coaster. And for those of you interested in audiobooks, you'll love hearing about Fiona's journey producing her audiobooks, both through a traditional audiobook publisher and independently. She shares what worked, what didn't, and the lessons she's learned along the way. If audiobooks are on your radar, this part alone is worth tuning in for. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and enjoy this warm and insightful conversation with the lovely Fiona Tarr. Let's get into it. And I'll do your intro later so you
Okay,
don't
cool.
have
No
to
worries.
see me gush.
Easy.
All right, I would love to welcome Fiona Tarr to the podcast today. How are you, Fiona?
I'm great. Thank you. Doing good.
Thank you so much for being here. So, you are fairly prolific. You have more than 20 novels out there and you write crime fiction. So, first off, I would love to know why you chose that particular genre.
I didn't choose it from the beginning. I actually started writing fantasy novels. I've been through three different fantasy genres, subgenres, and failed miserably. Not that the writing is bad, but marketing those products was very difficult, which led me to understand that I was not writing to market and I needed to write to market. And to do that, I did some research. I basically stopped writing altogether, spent quite a long time really nutting out which genre I wanted to write in, which subgenre within that I wanted to write in, who my writing style was most like that I could market to. And then I started writing a brand new series, and that series is the series that launched my full-time career. So it worked.
That's really interesting that you did so much market research. So, what were you writing? Fantasy?
I was writing fantasy, and my very first book, I have to admit, it was just something I needed to do for myself. It was quite cathartic. I'd come out of working with social services, crossing over with church organisations. I was a part of the church organisation. I was a bit disenfranchised with the whole, corporate religion. So I had to sit down and kind of blurt some stuff out. And it turned out being a retelling of the story of David in a very, very fantastical, magical kind of way. But of course, the religious people didn't like it, the biblical people didn't like it, and the fantasy people didn't like it. And occasionally I'd get somebody who did. So it was really hard to market. And that kind of, but I didn't learn very quickly. I was a very slow learner. It took me a while to figure out that I was really just totally in the wrong genre.
Yeah, right. That is so interesting though. So, crime fiction, what is it about crime fiction? Like, how did you really decide that that was where you belonged and that was where your voice was good and what you're passionate about?
Yeah, I mean, I should have actually just known because when I was a kid, my mum said to me, she was a big crime fiction writer, and she tried to get me to read mysteries, and I really enjoyed them as a kid, but I don't know why I didn't kind of twig as an adult. I think it was because I'd spent so many years reading non-fiction that I didn't really know what my preferred fiction reading was,
Mhm.
and because of that, I didn't really know what I wanted to write. Um, when I worked out it was crime fiction, it's because I love solving puzzles. I absolutely love, it's like a jigsaw puzzle, but in a fiction novel, and you can kind of put all the pieces together and then you can bring it all to an end, and it's a satisfactory end. And I just love fixing stuff. So I think that's where my love of crime novels came from. And
Uh,
the specific one is because I've read so much within the genre that I really didn't want to do psychological thrillers. I don't enjoy them to read them. I didn't really like reading really gritty stuff like, Criminal Minds kind of stuff. I don't really enjoy that. I wanted it to be a great, fast-paced crime fiction without having all the really gritty stuff in there. So,
yeah, no, that's amazing. And you base a lot of your books in Australia. So
yep.
is that, write what you know sort of idea?
It is right what you know, because I mean, I think you and I have spoken about this before. Everyone says, oh, English in Australia, English in the UK, English in the US. It's just the spelling that's different, but it's not. There's so many words within the American vocabulary that we don't use, trunk, not a boot, all the different words that we use in Australia. So for me, I wanted to be able to do it in a way that I wouldn't get called out for being unauthentic. And I've traveled a bit in Australia. I'm a bit of a farm girl at heart. So I think being able to set it in a rural place for the most part works for me. And at least if I go to urban setting, it's still a small, town. It's not, you're not talking about right in the centre of Sydney or Melbourne. All of the books are kind of, set in rural, urban environments.
Yeah, yeah, fantastic. So what sort of research do you have to do for your crime fiction novels?
I always joke that it's as little as possible, but that's not really true. Because oh look, you can research till the cows come home. You're still going to miss a few things. My very first novels, I used the term "sir," and I've since had a few police officers or former police officers let me know that "sir" is not. They never use it. They don't actually call their bosses "sir." But that would mean I would have to go back and rewrite about 6 novels. So I went, okay, we're just going to deal with that and learn from that experience. And that's not something that you can find easily on the internet. It's not something that you can do unless you know a police officer that you can ask those questions. So there's a certain amount of research you do. Researching locations that I've been to but have maybe forgotten some of the finer details. Google Maps is awesome. I can go back and revisit it. I check out my photos. I use those for research. But there is always, I always say that you don't do much research, but you do, because there's things that come up during your novel that you go, oh, I really have to work that one out. But I think my beta reading team have eliminated a lot of the research work for me, because I've got 4 betas. 2 of them are, experts in their field. One's a former forensic scientist. The other one's worked in the Indigenous communities. So both of those people saved me quite a lot of research work by making sure that everything is accurate when they beta read for me. So,
Yeah. So these novels, they're not sort of, are they involving police a lot, or is it regular people, or it's a mixture of both?
so they're all professional police. The first series, the Her Buried Bones book that is part of the Opalfield series, they are centered around a constable who became a police officer because her cousin and aunt went missing when she was in high school. So that drove her to be a police officer, and it drove her to finally try and work to unravel that mystery. The other series that's doing really well is the Dawn Graves series, and she's a detective. So both of these books involve a certain amount of police procedural. So yeah, but although I market them a little bit as police procedural, it's more women's sleuth, because they are female detectives or female police officers, and they do things the way females do them, which are quite different to the way guys can do them. So
True, this is true. And your covers are absolutely beautiful. I always tell you this. I love your covers so much.
thank you.
Did you have
Thanks
to
very much.
find, did you do a lot of research into what sells and really tried to market it to that genre?
Yeah, so when I took that time out to, not start from scratch, but literally the Opalfield series was my last ditched effort. I thought I'm going to really sit down and nut this out, or I'm just going to have to write for pleasure and forget this whole career thing. So before I launched that series, I actually wrote 3 books ready to rapid release them so that I would be able to get them into the market quickly. And I also researched the covers, and because I'd actually never expected my Australian market to be as big as it is, I didn't focus my cover designs on what Australian market's selling. So it's not a Chris Hammer or Jane Harper cover. It's actually modelled on the American genre of women's sleuths. And so I've picked up Melinda Lee and Kendra Elliott's style of covers, and I used those as my springboard. But because I have an undertone of relationships and romance, not romance full on, but a little bit of, building relationships, I wanted to make sure that they conveyed that. So I did that through colour choice within those covers. So
Yeah, and I think especially for me, because they've got the more feminine pinks and blues in there, it definitely strikes me as something I would read. And I don't normally read crime fiction, so it is something that I go, I could read that. It looks amazing. So, and covers are just one of these things, forever changing. It's always at the top of my mind, especially
exactly, yeah.
with everything going on. So are you writing full time now, or do you still have a day job to go to?
No, I write full time. We have run a water sports business for years, so there's still a little bit of admin I do behind the scenes for that. But we're no longer open full time to the public, so I can actually spend my time writing, which is what I want to do as an ongoing career. Um, and so my focus is on getting 4 novels out a year, more if I can. And that's across 2 different series that I'm running those at the moment. Eventually, one of those series will drop off and another one will replace it. But yeah, full time. So I don't write every single day. I write in blocks, and I
Yeah,
spread my kind of workload out amongst writing and marketing and whatever I feel like doing.
fantastic. So what does an average day look like to you?
So an average day when I'm not traveling is to be writing. So I'll get down between 3,000 and 5,000 words a day when I'm in the writing phase. And I'd really try and do that within a 30-day period so that I don't have to have issues with editing continuity and things like that. If I end up taking a bit of a break from the manuscript, I end up going, oh, I forgot that detail and I've got to go back and fix that. So it creates so much more editing. So if I can write in that 30-day block, I'll get a book drafted within that period. Then I will go into editing, beta reading, setting up my advanced readers, that kind of phase. Usually, because I do 4 books a year, usually those things cross over. So I'll be starting on a new novel as I'm already working it through the editing system and moving it through the beta readers and advanced readers and getting it ready to market. So yeah, I do a combination of both. So normally I will write for about 3 hours a day. Then I'll probably go do something in the garden or water sports or something like that. And at night I'll probably do a bit of marketing just to keep on top of things. So
Yeah, amazing. And you do like to travel as well. And I know you did just come back from being in North Queensland. So how did that all go?
it was great. I mean, we go away for winter. I mean, people say to me, I get my friends from down south, they go, oh my God, it's so cold down here. And I'm going, yeah, but it's cold in Noosa in winter. And they're going, no, that's where we go at winter time. And so I'm fully acclimatized. So come winter, I have to head north, which I do. I love catching up with some of the people that I've met over the years up that way, but it also gives me a chance to tour some of the libraries and network with other organisations. And I've actually done a couple of writing festivals up there as well. So it was a really good trip. We had a great time.
Absolutely. So I know that doing talks at libraries is one of these things that a lot of authors want to do. I've done some many years ago, so your knowledge is probably better than mine at the moment. How do self-published authors actually organize to do tours in libraries or to do talks in libraries these days?
So there's kind of 2 ways to go about it. my first way to go about it was because I was a bit tentative. I was thinking like, will the libraries want me to come and talk? I'm not a traditionally published author. I'm not a big name. Will they have me? So what I actually did is, because I have a fairly decent fan base on social media, I actually said to them, I'm heading this way. If you would like me to talk at your local library, then harass your librarian to contact me through my website. So my first couple of times that I did that was actually Port Macquarie. I was heading south, and Port Macquarie Library has one of the librarians. Her husband reads my books, and he's shoved it in front of his librarian wife's face and said, "You have to get this girl. You have to get this girl to speak." So that was kind of driven that way. But after I'd done a few events, I built my confidence up, and I realised that these libraries are actually really crying out for authors to come and create events at their locations, particularly the more remote rural libraries. They've got they need draw cards for their community. They want something on every month so that they can actually say, hey, we've got this author, you've probably been reading her books, why don't you come along to the event? And they create this energy and this atmosphere around that. So libraries love having authors come and talk. And once they get to know you and they give you a little test run, I finished up at the Yeppoon Library with my last event, and they were awesome. They, even had one of the girls pretended to be a what do you call it? A FBI, sorry, a CSI agent. She came in and she's, done this little investigation and found the knife under a chair, which was obviously the door prize. So they went to so much effort, and then they've said to me they were really wrapped with the event and they want me to come back next year at a bigger venue. So it was awesome. We had a great
Oh,
time.
that's awesome. I love supporting our local libraries. Of course, we need to keep them. I think many of us as authors wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for our libraries and childhood memories going
Yeah.
there. So yeah, I absolutely agree. I love
And
our library.
we've even got the added advantage now that even if we're in Amazon Kindle Unlimited, we can now put our books back into libraries as ebooks, which we haven't been able to do for a long time. So I'm very excited about that too. And all of the library networks that I'm part of are excited about that as well. So
Yeah, definitely. And what about bookshops? How are you going with any bookshops, local independents, or are they still terribly hard to get into?
look, I don't think they're hard to get into because I have been into local bookshops, but they're not so open to running these events like the libraries are, because they do have their catalogue of big name authors that they can use as draw cards. Getting a spot in a local shop as an author is harder, but also it's a lot of work because they tend to not use the distribution networks that we go through, like Ingram Spark. They're not interested in buying through that catalogue, which is a bit disappointing. They only want to buy through the catalogues that they do because, independent bookshops, it's a kind of a bit of an understanding that an independent bookshop is fully independent, but they're not, because they, like every other bookshop, have a network of traditionally published books that they can access through their buying group. And they also get the same incentivizing processes that big bookshops do to put a lot of effort into selling those books for them. So it's very difficult for an indie to get traction there. They have to be really, really hands-on. And to do that is very time consuming. And when most of my sales, 95% of my sales come through ebooks and audiobooks, then you have to kind of ask yourself, is that the best investment of your time? And for me, it hasn't been. So it's not something I pursue actively these days.
Absolutely. So let's talk about Kindle Unlimited. Have you always been in KU?
No, when I started out with the fantasy books, they flopped badly in KU. So they didn't sell any better in KU than they did in normal ebooks. So I wasn't super keen on putting my new series into Kindle Unlimited. I did, sorry, one series I did. I did actually put in Wide. So that was the Foxy Mystery series, which is a crossover between mystery and romantic suspense. That series I actually tried in Kindle Unlimited and it wasn't very successful. So I sent it wide. It still kind of ticked over, but it wasn't, ticking all the boxes. But when I released the new series, the Opalfield series, I was very deliberate, and I put it into Kindle Unlimited because I wanted my marketing dollars to go as far as possible, and I really only wanted to be aiming that marketing at Amazon. So that series and also the Dawn Grave series did really well in Kindle Unlimited. So I have now put Foxy Mysteries into Kindle Unlimited, and that's doing really well as well. So it wasn't straight up, but it's a strategic decision I made based on how much return you can get on your investment. Being wide, you have to work very hard to get the same amount of return on your investment. And once again, time, how much have I got? Do I want to really write 4 novels a year, or do I want to spend all my time marketing? And I would much rather write four or more novels a year. So
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And so most of your sales in KU are coming from Australia?
no, actually, I do in Kindle Unlimited. Kindle Unlimited's tricky because sometimes the US actually does better. Sometimes the UK does. Depends on how price sensitive they are at the time. The UK market's very price sensitive at the moment, so they are doing a lot of reading in Kindle Unlimited. But on an overall between ebooks and Kindle Unlimited, my sales split is about 45% in Australia, and about 25-30% in the US, and the rest split between the UK and some translations that I've done. So
Fantastic, fantastic. And audiobooks. I am obsessed with audiobooks. I'm an audiobook girly. Tell me about how you got into audiobooks. Lots of things have changed in the past sort of 6 to 9 months. So tell us, yeah, your experience going into audiobooks.
no worries. So I tossed up between trying to find somebody to publish them for me, right through to Australians. Obviously, we don't have access to the royalty share that they do in the US. You can't go and ask somebody to record it for you and then profit share with them. It's not something we have access to. So what I did is I auditioned some narrators and decided on a voice that I liked. I got some quotes from her, and then I've started the process of doing them myself. Just as I did that, and the first one was in recording, Elvis Croft or Aurora Publishing contacted me and said they'd like to do the audiobooks for it. And I went, oh, sorry about that. They're already in production. And I said, but I have a new series coming if you'd be interested. And they said, oh, you just contact us when it comes out and we'll have a look at it. So that has been picked up. That's the Dawn Grave series has been picked up by Elvis Croft, which is I did it because it gave me the opportunity to see which model worked best, or maybe a combination of the models working well together. So having the separate series in separate audio production models, time will tell which one has turned out to be the better. At the moment, I believe the Elvis Croft has worked out better because obviously they pay me upfront for the rights. But as far as sales go and ongoing sales go, I think that the doing it myself will probably long term be better because I will end up with more in my pocket long term. I've earned out on the series, so now everything I do is profit, but it's kind of, it's a waiting game, and you have to have the money to be able to do that up front. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And with the traditional publisher of the audiobooks, did you get any say in who the narrators were?
I got a say in the narrator. Unfortunately, I never heard a sample of the narrator before they went into production or full production. The first I heard it was when I got a copy of it in the post. And I went, oh my God.
Yeah.
It wasn't the way I would have wanted it to be read. But hey, what do I know about audiobooks? I'm actually not an audiobook listener. So my first series that I did was done kind of a little bit more theatrical, because I thought if you're going to sit there and listen to it, surely you want to have a little bit more interest going on. So Courtney is actually a voice actor, and she's done a great job of putting on the voices of all the different characters. Whereas what Elvis Croft produced is quite good, and from what I understand is more mainstream for what the market likes. But I have had people say, oh, I don't, I'm not, I listened to the first one, absolutely loved it. And then I'm listening to the second series. So I'm guessing they'll be a bit jarring because they are quite different styles. So moving forward, I think I'll be sticking to doing it myself. But Elvis Croft have the first rights to pick up the rest of these books in the series. So we'll see what they decide to do with them. The first 2 are out. the next two are up to them to do. But it is a waiting game, and it is time. It takes time. Publishing through a traditional publisher is at their timeline, at their process. And being a self-employed person and a now self-employed author, I do find the timeline a bit frustrating. So I do like the fact that I'm fully in charge of the other series. So
Yeah, absolutely. You've got me fully intrigued. I'm going to go and test them both out now. So I really like this one, and they've done this wrong. So I have a fair bit of experience with audiobooks, having done mine in 2019 and
Yep.
the producer of them. So I'm always, yeah, if the audiobook doesn't grab me in the first sort of 5 minutes, I'm like, nope, they didn't do it right. So,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And
uh,
mine are very, very different. So I mean, like I said, the jury's still out. Audible reviews on my first series are terrible, but my customer direct reviews are great. And then it's actually the opposite with the second series. The second series is getting good Audible reviews, but then my direct customers are going, oh, I don't like it as much as the first series. So can't please all the people all the time.
you
So
definitely can't, and that's standard with anything to do with the publishing industry.
exactly.
This episode is proudly sponsored by the Sunshine Coast Fiction Festival, one of the most exciting new events on the Australian literary calendar, and I'm thrilled to say I'm hosting it. Join myself and over 80 other authors and vendors for a 3-day festival of creative inspiration, community, and conversations at Venue 114 in Bocarina, just minutes from the beach and surrounded by the vibrant writing culture of the Sunshine Coast in Queensland. Whether you're a brand new writer dreaming up your first novel or an established author wanting to connect and learn and celebrate this wild creative life, we've got something for you. And bring all your bookish and reader friends too. The weekend is devoted to bookish fun and your chance to meet and chat with authors of all fiction genres, including romance, science fiction, fantasy, crime, and children's. There'll be workshops, panel discussions, author Q&As, and plenty of time to mingle and network and get inspired. You'll hear from some of the biggest names in fiction, including Stephanie Holmes, who's a USA Today best-selling author of dark, delicious fantasy. A.K. Mulford, a Sunshine Coast local who writes fantasy novels, rom-coms, and she's a BookTok star with a heart for magical stories. Rachel Johns is one of Australia's favourite authors of women's fiction and rural romance. Cadence Snow, she's a beloved in the indie romance scene for her gripping and emotional stories. And T.L. Swan, queen of spicy international bestsellers with legions of devoted fans. And Candice Fox, award-winning crime writer and screenwriter whose thrillers you cannot put down. And of course, I'll be there too, not just as your host, but with my own table at the signing, ready to chat, sign books, and cheer you on wherever you are in your writing journey. This is your chance to meet some of your favourite authors, connect with other passionate readers and writers, and soak up an atmosphere of creative energy that will stay with you long after the day ends. Tickets are already selling fast, and this is a 3-day event. So if you're thinking about coming, don't wait. The Sunshine Coast Fiction Festival is proudly sponsored by Serenade Publishing, the Queensland Writers Centre, the Sunshine Coast Libraries, and Baventi. Head to sunshinecoastfictionfestival.com.au to check out the full program and book your ticket now. I can't wait to see you there. Amazing. So, do you have any advice for aspiring authors?
Oh, I've got a few things I think that, might be helpful. The first one, I guess, is don't make all the mistakes I made. So, just really know your genre, really know what you want to write. Doesn't mean you shouldn't be writing before that, because the readers that I built up with that first series, back in with my fantasy work, some of those crossed over. They're still advanced readers with me now. So, nothing is ever wasted. It gave me a chance to hone my craft as well. and kind of find my own personal voice. But I think it's really important that as a new author starting out, that you really want to make sure that you nail the subgenre that you want to write in, and that you understand where you fit in that market. So reading and listening to a lot of other authors is really important. Another thing would be that networking. You really want to network with other authors. However you choose to do that, you can do that on a personal level, one-on-one with people that you physically go spend time with, or you can also do it via online networking. There's about 2 or 3 groups out there that I'd recommend people get involved in online, and meeting and chatting with other authors. They're full of great resources that are free to browse through and test and try and see what's going to work. But you can't find most of what you're looking for on the internet easily. It's much better to be in these groups. They'll also warn you of all the publishing pitfalls, of all the, scams out there, of the vanity publishers out there, and the things that, can cost you thousands and thousands of dollars and not give you anything in return. So I think it's really important to be networking that way. And then the last thing I think I would probably say is that don't talk your self-publishing career down. The publishing industry is fickle. The readers are out there reading books, not even understanding or knowing where they're coming from. They don't know what a traditional book is. Most of them wouldn't know what a self-published author book is. So they just read because they're enjoying it. And the average person doesn't know whether you're traditionally published or self-published. When somebody asks you, are you a published author, and you're a self-published author, the answer is just yes, I'm
Yeah,
published. And you
that's
can
it.
find my books here. So
That's it, absolutely. And of course, talking about the writers community, you're in Noosa, of course, I'm in Mullaney, so we're both in the Sunshine Coast. And I did get to meet you for the first time 4 or 5 months ago, I think it was, at our monthly writers group, which was beautiful. And that group, I love that group because we've also got like Catherine Bilson, who I've also
yep.
had on the show, AK Mulford comes, Ellie, and a bunch of, I think there's about 20 at any one point that we get there. And just the information that we share, whether it's craft related or marketing related or the latest drama in romance landia, it's so beneficial for all of us there at any
Yep.
stage of our careers. And yeah, I lived remote. I lived in Townsville while I was writing my first 3 books, and the only real access I had to people were online. So
Mm.
Facebook groups back then were really good. I'm not so much in them anymore. But then we've got organizations like the Romance Writers of Australia, then there's Romance Writers of America and New Zealand as well.
Yep.
Um, for crime fiction, what do you have? I know there's Sisters in Crime. Are there any others?
Yeah, I mean, Sisters in Crime are definitely geared towards traditional publishing. Unlike, with the romance writers, you've definitely got an indie support network going on there. Whereas we've found it's been tough going within the crime fiction community to find those mainstream writing awards and groups and things that you can get involved in. I believe the Bad Festival supports indies, but I haven't actually been to that myself. So as far as groups are specific to crime, there's Philippa Clark runs a group that's called Australian Crime Fiction. There's some authors in there. And in Australia, there's the Indie Royalty Facebook group, which is mostly made up of Australia and New Zealand authors. Not just crime, but there are crime authors in there. And that's a nice little group. It's not huge, that most of us know each other. Catherine's in there as well, and I think you're in that one as well. So, they're predominantly groups that we kind of all get each other, and we all know where we are in our careers, and we can help each other out. So I'll often be posting in there saying, hey, has anyone got anything on special? Because I need something for my newsletter.
That's it. Absolutely. All right, fantastic. So if we want to dive into your books, which one should we start with?
I think Her Buried Bones is probably the very first book that most people are starting with. That's the series that launched my career. It's got 7 books out, 8 books are on the way, 9 books planned. That's a very funny series because I was only planning 6 books, but my readers went, "No, no, you're not done yet." So I went, "Oh, okay, I'm not done yet. Let's find a new story arc and let's go." So there's 9 books. It's going to be 9 books in that series. They'll be finished. The last one comes out early in next year. And then that kind of leads to a new series. It also leads back to the Foxy Mystery series, and it also introduces the lead character for the Dawn Grave series. So I think it's a really good place for people to start.
Fantastic. So obviously we can get them in Kindle Unlimited, and audiobooks. And do you have a direct store or links on your website?
Yep. So my website's fionatarr.com, and I do have a shop there for paperbacks to be sold within Australia. Paperbacks outside of that are available through normal online bookstores, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, all of those have got them. So
Fantastic. And if you've got tickets for the Sunshine Coast Fiction Festival, you will definitely be able to come up and meet Fiona and buy her books and have a chat to her as well. So thank you so much for your time today, Fiona. That's been really fun.
thank you. It's been great to be with you, Sarah. Thank you for having me.
Wasn't that such a beautiful and down to earth conversation? I loved hearing Fiona's honesty about the ups and downs of navigating the publishing world, whether it's understanding your readers, stepping out to speak at libraries, or figuring out the whole audiobook puzzle. And I hope it reminded you, like it reminded me, that we don't have to do this writing life alone. Surrounding yourself with writer friends, mentors, and communities that get you can make all the difference. If this episode sparked something for you, or if you're now curious about getting your book into audio or connecting with your local library, I'd love to hear about it. Come join the conversation over at serenadepublishing.com. That's where you'll find all my resources, including Fiction Writing Academy and my free brainstorming fun sheet to help you take the next step in your writing journey. Thanks so much for listening. And as always, keep writing, keep dreaming, and I'll catch you next time on the Right Podcast.